The Blue Jays, ever since signaling a retool at the trade deadline this year, have hit another gear offensively. Now, they're still losing ball games and they're still pretty much firmly out of the playoff race. But what we're seeing out of a lot of the young guys that are vying for jobs for next season has been very positive. And yesterday was the culmination of all of it. Joey Loperfido, who's really started to turn the corner in the past couple of days, has looked really good, and he hit a big game-tying home run in the ninth yesterday. And then Addison Barger had his biggest moment as a big leaguer. So we'll break that down and much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And here I am in Toronto. I was at the game yesterday, and what a game it was to actually go to, because even though Vladdy wasn't in the lineup, the outlook was kind of bleak heading into the game. I'm like, wow, really? The one game I go to in Toronto, Vladdy is in the lineup for the first time since the All-Star break. And I mean, whatever. I was kind of bummed out about that because Vladdy is one of the hottest hitters on the planet right now. But the young guys in the lineup gave us a really good show yesterday, Nick. And two of them that we're going to focus in on today are Addison Barger and Joey Loperfido, who made not just an amazing play offensively in the ninth inning to tie up the ball game. He made a leaping grab at the wall in left field, and he's looked good defensively. He's very fast. His base running is fantastic, and he really shows those flashes of being a five-tool player, as does Addison Barger, who has fantastic power, a great arm, and he's a solid player as well. But we're wondering what the Blue Jays have in some of these guys, and they're going to get every opportunity to prove it from now until the end of the season. And yesterday was really a great moment for both of them, and could be a sign of things to come in the future.
Yeah, obviously they got Loperfido in the trade for José Kikuchi, and even though he was struggling through his first handful of games with the Jays, they kept rocking with him, and it's paying off. And let's just dive right into it. And Peter, the team looks different, and that's just not from looking on the outside. Their offense has been the best in baseball in a couple of categories, which we'll get into, since August 11th, and that is a 360 or 180 change from what they were earlier on in the season. We'll start with Joey Loperfido here. In his last 7 games, he has a 450 average, approaching a 1500 OPS. We know that he has the tools. You mentioned it in the video when they traded for him, and we mentioned it as well. He has the tools to be a 5-tool player. That's why the Astros fans were upset that they were getting rid of it. And then yesterday we see him hit a huge game-tying home run to left center field, and then you see Barger crush one back-to-back. But focusing on Loperfido for a second here, if he can continue even a little bit of this, 70% of this, 60% of this, he is an everyday big leaguer. And I think in that trade, their plan is to have Loperfido be the everyday left fielder next season with Varsho in center. And it's the trade looks good, and I'm glad they kept riding with him after his struggles, because he changed countries, brand new team, finally getting everyday playing time, and he's really letting the Jay. He's showing every single tool, even the base running as well in other games. He's a 5-tool player, and I'm excited we got him on our team.
Well, it would be ridiculous to not have him in the lineup, because this is what these games are all about. You're not worried about the wins and losses anymore. You signaled what the direction was at the trade deadline, and that was to play the young guys and to find out what you have in them. And that's going to be the number one key here. It's to see if a guy like Joey Loperfido, if someone like Will Wagner or Addison Barger can be everyday serviceable big leaguers. Now, I'm not convinced yet. We still have to see more. If all of them, I think Loperfido has the best chance just because of his all-around game that he possesses. He hasn't looked out of place for a second in left field. Obviously, we know that he's had some defensive gems as well in Houston. And the power. The power is what separates him from those other two guys. And Barger has power of his own as well, but you could tell he's still very raw and maybe not as major league ready as Loperfido is, who's a little bit older than him as well. So, look, that's what this is. For the next month or month and a half, it's an audition for these guys to be maybe not everyday players, but to be on the roster next season and play a big role. And having Loperfido in left field is not a downgrade defensively, and Varsho's acumen kind of raises his value in center field as well. So you just see some positive changes are being made. The team is starting to find an identity with all of these young guys and Vladdy as their leader. And I think that's the direction that they need to keep going with. I don't think they're going to be able to be competitive in 2025 if a lot of these young guys are starting. But that's okay as long as you re-sign Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and signal that it's his team and that they're all going to progress together. They're all around that same age, 23 to 26 years old. So you can keep this team together and you can build from year to year. But in order to do that, you got to keep some of those big guns in place. And I'm talking about Vladdy and Varsho, and then everything else will fall into place. So I've liked what I've seen out of Loperfido the past few games. Looked really good yesterday. Made a nice catch in left field, like I mentioned, and definitely someone that is going to give himself every opportunity to be the everyday left fielder next year for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and you can see I brought it up briefly there. He's raised his OPS plus to 104, and if you looked at this 8 games ago, it was, I think it was in the 40s or the 50s. He was really struggling at a 140 batting average with the Jays. He turned that up to 237. We always knew the power was there for Loperfido, whether that's in the minors, whether that was his brief stints in the majors. His power has been there, and if he's able to limit his strikeouts, continue to hit home runs, and then obviously defensively, he's very, very good. Then, the sky's the limit for this guy. And let's dive into obviously, Addison Barger as well. He's very good. I think Addison Barger has a bit more polishing needed. I don't think he's going to get into the lineup every day next season, whether they're competing or not, but he's definitely going to be an interesting guy. But Peter, since August 11th, here are the stats for the Toronto Blue Jays. If you look at the bottom, the totals there, 23 home runs and 59 RBIs, which leads the MLB since August 11th. They put this up on Sportsnet broadcast yesterday, and what a wild turn of events considering how bad the Jays offense has been the entire year. It's been the reason that they are in the current spot they are, and that we're not talking about the Jays making a push for the playoffs in October like we have in the past handful of years. But the offense with the young guys has really taken off. Now, Vladdy has been elite. You have a lot of the young guys playing well. Will Wagner, Spencer Horwitz has been really good as well. Joey Loperfido now. But the offense is here, and hopefully it's here to stay into next season because they're doing very, very well, and they're winning games as well. They're not winning a crazy amount of games. They're playing about 500 baseball, but with the young guys, they're doing better than they were with the veterans.
Yeah, they are, and you could just tell that there's a different level of hunger and motivation with this group, and I think that's what's different than the team pre-deadline. Guys like Ernie Clement are finally getting to play every day, and they're rewarding John Schneider and everybody else on that coaching staff for their patience because at the beginning of the season, there was some talk about Ernie Clement maybe not making it through the end of the year and being a DFA candidate. Now he's put up over 3 wins above replacement this season, pretty much being an everyday guy the past couple of months. So it's been nice to see all these young guys and guys that maybe haven't gotten too much runway in their big league careers step up and force some tough decisions on Blue Jays management and the Blue Jays coaching staff as well. Is this a winning team? Is this a team that can make the playoffs over a 162 game schedule? It's not because the talent just isn't there. But we see some glimpses. Like yesterday, they're playing another bad team in the Angels, and I don't remember how many comeback wins the Blue Jays have had this season, but it can't be that many, right? And they didn't care. They went into the 9th inning with house money, and they said, we're going to give ourselves a chance to win this ball game. And they didn't even let Roansy Contreras get it out. They Joey Loperfido started off with some fireworks, hit a home run, and then passed the baton to Addison Barger, who hit a foul ball a mile and then ended up going deep on the very next pitch. So it's been great to see these young guys just progress and grow together as a unit. But will they be successful going forward if they don't make any changes in the offseason? No, but it's still nice to see the individual progression.
And there's going to be a lot of talk in the offseason, whether that is making a big signing for a hitter, whether that's trading Bo Bichette. Like, there's going to be a lot heading into the offseason here, but it all started with the José Kikuchi trade that is looking really, really, really good for the Blue Jays right now, even though it is early. And hopefully that culminates into the Jays offense continuing this into next season.
Too, looking pretty good.
Kikuchi's looking good too. So maybe it was a trade that worked out for both ways, but ultimately it's going to be exciting to see what happens over the next over the next month of games, because the Jays don't really have anything to play for standings wise. But yesterday, Peter, I don't know how you felt about it. It was probably the happiest I felt watching Blue Jays baseball all year, maybe aside from the first month of the season, but even then they were middling 500. So any final thoughts before I wrap up? I'm happy we got to see a walk-off home run. We got to see the young guys play. And
Yeah.
we're also going to see, which I mentioned in yesterday's video, I know you weren't there, you were traveling, Jake Bloss is also dominating in AAA, and we're probably going to see him some point in September. So a lot of things to look forward to for the Jays.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, I have some mixed feelings about yesterday because it was awesome to see the win. It was awesome to see the way that they actually got the W. But the Rogers Center right now, they can acknowledge that this team is not where it needs to be, and the attendance reflects that. It looked like it was about halfway full yesterday, and not too much noise. Even when they did walk it off, it was not too noisy in the Rogers Center. So, yeah, it was nice to see the win. It was my first game at the Rogers Center this year, but not much to report back to you besides that.
Yeah, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that, and hopefully the Jays can take care of business today against the Angels. We'll see you tomorrow.